Welcome to another edition of Anglican Unscripted, the late Friday afternoon edition. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger. Today, September 1st, 2017.
It's back to school season, George. You know what that means in my house?
What's that?
Peace, quiet, tranquility, meditation. If I did yoga, I could do yoga. The kids just file out of the house in the morning, and the cat and dog are just bewildered by how quiet it can be in this house. We can hear the fan in the ceiling kind of just twirl. And you can't. These are things you can't hear normally when the kids are home. So, for most of our audience, the kids are back to school. I want to congratulate you guys for all surviving summer. Now, summer, obviously, here in Connecticut is different than Florida. What happens when a person takes a trip to Disney in the end of August, George?
It rains and you become severely dehydrated simultaneously. 95 degrees, humidity, and temperature. So we're going through that. In the background during this filming, you'll hear the rumble of thunder as a front passes through.
We should take note of Hurricane Harvey. You yourself were in a hurricane. We had Hurricane Sandy up here. When it came ashore, it wasn't a hurricane, but it was a lot of mess. We should talk about the needs of people at this time who are surviving this hurricane. A lot of people want to send clothes, items, and stuff like that. The biggest need is cash, George.
Yeah, in 2005, our home was destroyed in Vero Beach, and we had to evacuate, and we couldn't go back on to the... Vero Beach is a barrier island. We couldn't go back on for a few days, and this is before cell phones really were as common. Remember, cell phones used to be about the size of a brick?
Yeah, I had my first one. It had the antenna that weighed you down. Yeah, I remember that.
And dealing with, to make, I remember having to stand in line at a payphone at a 7-Eleven to call FEMA with hundreds of other people. And the real needs aren't food, it's not bottled water, because the Army and Corps of Engineers has all that stuff. It really is financial support for little things like by having money to buy glasses. I can remember one of our neighbors, their glasses were smashed by the wind in the hurricane, and of course none of the ATMs work and the credit cards wouldn't work, and they needed cash to buy glasses. And that's just a little thing, and it's not the first thing that you think of.
No, you don't. I mean, a lot of the needs...
But this is where churches... And so much of this money that goes to the mega charities, I'm sure a lot of it is spent well. But really, if you want to help people on a realistic basis, give to those charities that don't have the massive overheads, that don't have the heart-tugging commercials. Give to those charities that are actually working with people on the ground doing things. Local is much better than national in these sorts of things.
Yeah, I have to agree. Right now, the biggest concerns of these people who've been stuck in the house for a week now, the dialysis patients, the people who need to get out on a frequent basis are finally now being rescued and taken to some medical care facilities, which have largely been wiped out by the rains. And there's a very famous cancer hospital down there that still is working hard to reopen. And it's one of the difficulties of a large storm taking out a whole city, George.
We'll see a large spike in deaths now because there'll be people who need oxygen. For instance, my mother, for instance, uses an oxygen nebulizer 24 hours a day. And if you're living in a place where you have no electricity and it's 90+% humidity, it's oppressively hot, all this water's got to evaporate, it's not draining off, and you have no oxygen, you're going to die of congestive heart failure all the quicker. So we're going to see a spike in people who have been kept alive through science and technology. They're going to die off quickly. I saw this myself. I was working as a hospice priest at the time of the hurricanes in 2004, 2005 that devastated our part of Florida. and we had a massive spike of deaths in the weeks afterwards. Uh, it's not the flooding that really kills the most people.
No,
It's the consequences of the breakdown of
society. Yeah, society, order, the stress, the cardiovascular systems. It's amazing. So prayers, and I'm going to put a list of charities that I think you could help out. There's obviously Episcopal and Anglican churches right in the area that you can help out. So if you want to look in the show notes, you'll see that there's local places to help. George, let's move on to the news. You broke a story in Australia. Now, Australia is going to go through a lot of stuff in the next year. They're looking right now on whether or not to have same-sex marriage in the nation. That's being debated all over the news cycles they have down there. David Old, a friend of ours, is certainly a part of those discussions. But they decided to send some people up to help the consecration of Andy Lyons a couple months ago, and now there's some backlash from that.
Yes, June 30th, 3 Australian clergy, bishops, Glenn Davies, Archbishop of Sydney, Bishop Condi, I just lost his first name in my head, Bishop Nelson of Northwest Australia, participated in the consecration of Andy Lyons. Now, before they went, they let all the other Australian bishops know they were going. They laid out their reasons, which were due to the apostasy, the Scottish Episcopal Church, and the desire to help people who were basically unchurched by the actions of progressive churches in the UK. And so they went and they did it. The primate said, this is a mistake. Well, in July, after they got back, the Bishop of Bendigo, Andrew Curnow, who retires, by the way, in November, so he's got no bones in this other than to make trouble at the end, along with 4 other bishops, asked the primate to refer this to the appellate tribunal.
Oh, boy.
Now, this is not a disciplinary case at this point.
No, politics.
The appellate tribunal offers legal opinions,
yeah.
And they want a legal opinion. Can these bishops consecrate a bishop for somebody outside the Anglican communion? And this referral comes a week before their meeting of General Synod. So the timing was either deliberate to blow up General Synod so it'll accomplish nothing, or the timing was deliberately stupid.
No, I think they're trying to take out Synod. Obviously, it's politically driven. It's to show Justin the love. Hey, peace. We still love and support you, Justin. We want to be sure that you noticed us down here in Australia. We got a couple, really weird archbishop. Oh, didn't Australia just get a new archbishop?
Kay Goldsworthy was elected Archbishop of Perth.
That's right.
Now, just a little background. That doesn't how that works. She was elected Bishop of Perth, but Perth is a metropolitan diocese, meaning it's the seat of the Archbishop of Western Australia. There are 2 other dioceses in that province, Bunbury and Northwest Australia. So she was elected the Archbishop of Perth. Now, that was not a surprise. She had been suffragan for many years. She was an appointed suffragan, not elected.
Mm-hmm.
Then she went to Gippsland, which is a diocese on the other side of Australia, last year as an selected diocesan, and now she's come back as the Archbishop. Now, she's a careerist. She is a typical progressive woman. It's fascinating to me that so many of these people are married to avowed atheists. Her husband is a proud atheist and makes no bones about it. We see that I won't go into
No.
That might be.
Yeah, there's lots of analogies, but we don't need to bring up examples because there's way too many.
And she's one of the people bringing charges against Sydney. She's a firm supporter of same-sex marriage. She voted at the last Perth Synod in favor of same-sex marriage. And she'll probably find a way to go. She's like Catherine Jefferts Schori, being passive-aggressive. She won't make a thundering speech, but she'll get her way through the back channels.
Okay.
And so she's one of the people bringing charges against Sydney for basically opposing what she supports.
It's going to be crazy. I'm going to try and see if I can get an interview next week with David Old to talk about the new and I would say impending law at this point where Australia goes for same-sex marriage. One of the
fascinating things is that remember that The three conservative bishops let everybody know ahead of time what
Yeah.
they were doing.
Mm-hmm. And nobody
There
said
were no
nothing.
surprises. Well, the Archbishop of Australia, Philip Freer, said, I really hope, I don't want you guys to do this, but this appellate tribunal request came as a surprise, I'm told. So the way the Liberals work is that they demand complete transparency from the other side, but don't give it themselves.
No. Yeah. Now, what's their defense in this? You're going to consecrate somebody outside the Anglican Communion? I'm not sure of that defense, because Andrew Lyons was a bishop or a clergy person in the Anglican Communion, right?
Well, the Liberals in Australia are saying that Sydney and the Global South and GAFCON should not have the authority to determine who is and who is not an Anglican. And that can only be done by the Archbishop of Canterbury. Now, no one has ever given the Archbishop of Canterbury that authority. There is no definition of the Anglican Communion that is of any legal consequence or standing. To claim otherwise is a legal fiction. It's a polite fiction, you like to admit it, but it's a fiction. And also, history is against this. Sydney has been consecrating bishops for the Church of England in South Africa, a church in the Anglican tradition that is not in relationship with the Archbishop of Canterbury for 2 or 3 generations. This is not new. This has been going on for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And how many times
it goes back way before that. I don't know if you can read this. It says TEC. Were they not originally consecrated? Bishop Seabury, hundreds of years ago, not by the Archbishop of Canterbury, who opposed this type of thing?
Yes, but of course, Kevin, we don't want to have consistency of logic.
No, we don't. But that would eliminate the whole... If they win their argument, the Episcopal Church is, well, we already know, goners.
See, Kevin, one of the things that Greg Venables once said about Catherine Jefferts Schori is that she's not a Christian as we understand Christians to be.
That's one of his greatest quotes, by the way. We use it all the time.
That sounds very harsh.
Yeah.
But the reality is that's where we are right now. Kay Goldsworthy is not a Christian as the people in Sydney understand Christians to be. The people in Sydney are not Christians as the way Kay Goldsworthy understands Christians to be. We are really that, Kevin, we raised the question, was this deliberate or accidental? The Australian Church, there are bishops pushing for same-sex marriage and same-sex blessings, and Sydney is blocking the path. It's not going to happen with Sydney there. So they need to take Sydney down a few notches, put them on the defensive in order to get what they want. So this is all part of political log rolling, in my opinion, to achieve a liberal outcome for the progressive movement in Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. But they're not fighting an uphill battle. They have society on their side. They have I can't define Anglicans. If we can't define Christians, well, how are we going to define Anglicans? But they have the majority of the liberal Anglican Communion on their side as well. And
that really doesn't matter. I mean, Kevin,
not to you and I, but it certainly matters to help their win their political battles.
You've made an excellent point. When it's a political battle, it matters. But this is not a political battle. This is a salvation issue. It's an ethical issue. And 50% plus 1 does not determine the outcome of salvation issues. Fidelity to the gospel does. And, people say to me, why do you remain an Episcopalian with all this craziness? Well, maybe it's because I'm incredibly stupid and I don't know what's going on. But at the end of the day, my salvation is not incumbent upon what somebody does in New York or Washington or other places like that. It's my relationship with Jesus Christ. Remember, one of the things that people forget is that the ecclesiology of Anglicanism, Article 19, the congregation is the church. Not the bishop, not the province, not the diocese. Primary ecclesial spiritual unit is the congregation of men and women where the gospel is preached and the sacraments celebrated.
Amen.
And that is where it lies. not some sort of higher juridical view. But there, I'm pontificating.
No,
I
yeah,
always.
but we do that. We like to talk about stuff and talk until our heads fall off, and that's why people watch the program. They want to hear what we have to say. It's odd. It's weird because our wives don't watch. They don't care what we want to have to say.
They've heard so many. They've stopped listening.
Yeah, they stop listening. I mean, they got better things to do with their time, but thank God our audience doesn't. Now, now that we're towards the end of the program here, I thought of something. We don't need money right now because we don't have any big trips planned, but we want you to donate something to Anglican Unscripted. We want you to donate likes. I want you to like us on Facebook and like us on YouTube. Likes, Likes.
Likes.
No, likes.
But Kevin, you're bald. You can't have head lice. I mean,
Yeah, I know. You would think, there's still hair here. There's just not enough for an infrastructure. I tried for years, George, but I didn't want to do the swirl. I have friends who do the swirl. Oh, my dad used to do the swirl, and I have friends who do the comb over. And I don't want to say anything, but as long as you can go short and not have the shiner, go short. So I want people to donate likes. Like us on Facebook, share the show with your friends, like us on YouTube, click the share buttons, send us around. We don't send money, send likes. I'm Kevin Carlson.
and I'm George Conger, and I'll be happy to take your money.
Yes.
And this has been episode 317 of Anglican Unscripted.